Devastator!
Yeah, and it talks now.
Look, Hitaru! Look! Gaktarum! Ihematuhum! Otrak!
Outrider. My vision is getting worse.
Dar ihe! Packer! Ikmatuhum! Kako iktarik pake!
What I'm seeing, I feel like it's about to happen. We don't have time. You need to end this.
Irak! Krator Irak! Ikmatu! Mairu Targakma!
What's going on, you guys? This is All1, and I'm going to be giving you guys another Outriders build video. So with this build video I'm going to be giving you guys is going to be the Devastator. So for the Devastator, it's going to be an anomaly build, or I guess you could call it the bleed build. There are other build videos out there that probably are fairly similar to what I'm about to show you. I'm not sure. I haven't really looked into other build videos, but I'm pretty sure there are people that already run the Seismic Commander set, which is pretty much the build. You're going to be revolving around bleed, or I guess pretty much status power, and high damage with your earthquakes and leap slams. It's going to be really good to use for both solo clearing Eye of the Storm and for solo clearing expeditions on gold. There are going to be certain cases where you might not always get gold in doing your expeditions, but I mean that's just anomaly builds in general. Not every anomaly build will get you to get gold. But anyways, we're just going to go ahead and get right into it. Alright, so first things first is your gear and your weapons. So for the weapons, you're going to be using the Anemoy and the Guillotine. Now, if you don't have neither of them, that's fine. But if you do really want to try to get the Anemoy the most, obviously you have to rely on RNG to get this. But the reason why is because of Moaning Winds. With Moaning Winds, reloading creates a strong blast around you, dealing 387.6k damage to enemies in a range of 8 meters every 8 seconds. Now, if you don't have Fortress, don't worry, you don't need to have Fortress on here. Obviously, having Fortress is going to be nice because that's just 43% damage bonus based off your armor. But if you don't have that and you do have the Guillotine's Radiation Splash, you could use that. Or what you could use is a tier 1 mod called Clip Consumption. We're just going to go ahead and show you what the mod looks like. So Clip Consumption is right here. It's a tier 1 mod and it works just as well. It is less damage, but it occurs every 2 seconds. So reloading weapon creates a shockwave dealing 96.9k damage to enemies within a 5 meter radius. So like I said, if you don't have Fortress, just go ahead and run the Clip Combustion, or you could run the Radiation Splash if you have Radiation Splash. And then the next weapon, obviously, would be the Guillotine. The reason why I'm using the Guillotine is because with Radiation Splash, what it does is when you reload the weapon, it'll deal damage in a 5 meter radius, and those enemies that are affected by the damage from the Guillotine is inflicted with vulnerability. Because in this build, you're not going to have anything that's going to allow you to get any sort of vulnerability, other than, I guess, you could put vulnerability on your pistols. the one for the tier 1 or the tier 2 or tier 3 mod. For every shot you can do, you can apply a vulnerability, but just having the guillotine itself is probably the better option. If you don't have it, then don't worry about it. It's just only a 15% extra damage increase, since they did nerf the vulnerability from 30% to 15%. And then I also did put Moaning Winds on here as well, just so that way I'm basically getting like 500,000 damage just from the guillotine alone when I reload. Now for the pistols, I actually switched between 2 different pistols. This one I use when it comes to doing normal expeditions and the boss fight in the Eye of the Storm. And then this one I used on the plates. So if you're just trying to hold the plate, just use one with Snow Squall. The reason why I'm using Snow Squall in Mark of the Stake is because Snow Squall, anytime you shoot an enemy and you reload, they freeze. Same thing with Mark of the Stake, but instead of freeze, they burn. So when you shoot an enemy and then you reload, they start to burn. So you can pretty much mark multiple enemies at once and then burn them. Now, if you, like I said, if you don't have Fortress before on the other weapons, probably not going to have Fortress for your pistol. So in this case, you can actually run both Mark of the Stake and Snow Squall, because this way you don't have to worry about switching between the two. You can just keep it on one pistol and you'll be able to have a lot more damage that way. And then another option would be you can actually use the Ultimate Link, I think it's what it's called on the weapon. It's a tier 2 and a tier 3 mod. So damage link, shots link up to 4 enemies sharing 30% of their damage or of their weapon damage dealt and 15% of their anomaly damage dealt every 4 seconds. That's just the tier 2 version, and the tier 3 version would be shots link up to 4 enemies sharing 40% of their weapon damage dealt and 20% of their anomaly damage dealt every 1 second. So ultimate damage link can also be another option, or just regular damage link, one or the other. And then if you don't have neither of them, you could always use resistance breaker to reduce the enemy's resistance by 35% for 6 seconds. Happens every 1 second. Or you can put the Snow Squall with Mark of the Stake, or Vortex with Mark of the Stake. You don't want to use Vortex and Snow Squall at the same time because they're going to be frozen and slowed, so it wouldn't really make much sense. Next up is going to be all of your gear pieces. So the helmet, or you're going to run the 3-piece Seismic Commander set. And the reason why is because the 3-piece bonus gives you 50% more damage against enemies that are bleeding. Now for the helmet, it already comes with Anomaly Power, Status Power, and Skill Life Leech. And then it comes with the Tier 3 Second Quake mod and Bloodshock. The only reason why you see the crafting symbol next to Second Quake is because I changed it to something else because I was testing something. And then I reverted it back to Second Quake. And then for the chest piece, it comes with Anomaly Power, Status Power, and Cooldown. And then I ended up putting the Tier 1 mod called Earthquake. So I get an extra Earthquake, I guess, activation before it triggers cooldown. And it also came with Earth's Legacy. Seismic Commander's legs. It comes with Anomaly Power, Status Power, and Cooldown. The good thing is it comes with a Tier 3 mod called Tainted Blood, so you don't need to really worry about finding this anywhere. You could actually, it comes with Tainted Blood, which is good. And then I ended up putting Bullet Kindling. So what I did before was I actually ended up putting Captain Hunter, which you get Captain Hunter from the Cannonball gloves, the legendary Cannonball gloves. But the thing is, it's a 25% damage to elites, which is pretty much bosses in general. Bullet Kindling is technically going to be better in this situation because, yes, you do lose 5% damage against bosses and elites, but you're gaining 20% more damage against every enemy that is burned. Just so if you're playing in a group with a Pyromancer, you have that. If you're solo, you also have Mark of the Stake, which you can just shoot at the enemies and then reload. It only takes 1.3 seconds to reload your pistols. So you can do that, and then any enemy that's burning takes 20% more damage. So really, you're gaining a lot more damage output versus losing, because that Captain Hunter only applies to elites and not to everyone. So that's the only reason why I went with Bullet Kindling. Plus, it's a Tier 2 mod, which means it makes it a little easier to obtain for most people, because you don't have to rely on getting it on a legendary. You could actually probably find it in one of the stores and just buy it, or upgrade a blue or a green up to a purple and possibly get bullet kindling. Next is going to be purple gloves and purple boots. These are the hardest pieces, or at least the hardest pieces for me to have found, because you needed the right stats. So you needed anomaly power, cooldown reduction, and status power, and it needed to come with the ground crush, double jump, or no, ground crush, and the other one needed to come with human comet and untamed power, and then you had to roll double jump on one or the other. So for my gloves, I have double jump. I don't remember where double jump comes from, but the reason why you need it is just so you get an extra gravity leap, because your gravity leap is going to do a lot of damage. And ground crush is going to be really nice because it adds an extra 84k damage to earthquake. And then for the boots, human comet is really good because you're going to have two gravity leaps, which allows you to do a lot of damage on top of the extra 129.2k damage from human comet. And then you're going to have untamed power. So with untamed power, this is going to be pretty much essential for most anomaly builds in general, mainly anomaly trickster and an anomaly devastator, because you're going to be spamming your abilities close up to the enemy. You're going to be right on top of the enemies. So being able to just spam all your abilities and weave in melee hits in between everything is going to be really good with untamed power. It'll just do a lot of damage, and it's a 5-meter radius damage as well. So it's going to be doing 44.3k damage to enemies within a 5-meter radius of you. The damage is equal to 30% of your anomaly power. So it's going to be really, really, really good to use untamed power. Next is going to be your skills. So as you can see, my skills, I'm using Golem. It's a protection skill. Fortify yourself for 65% of incoming damage for 8 seconds. Gravity leap. Leap into the air and strike your targets from above, dealing 247.4k damage and interrupting enemies within a small radius of the area you land in. So it's already adding the 129k, I believe. Yeah, it's adding the 129.2k damage on top of gravity leap. And then earthquake. Release a shockwave to deal 172.6k damage and interrupt all enemies in front of you. So as you can see, the cooldowns for Golem is not too bad. It's a 15.7 second cooldown. The thing is, the cooldown doesn't happen until after the duration of Golem ends. So don't expect the cooldown to start working or start to go as soon as you activate Golem. Golem has to actually end before the cooldown starts to go off. Gravity Leap is only an 11.8 second cooldown. Not too bad. It's not so noticeable, to be honest. Especially when you have the double Gravity Leap, and then you're spamming Earthquake, you're spamming your 3 Earthquakes, and then you're using your gun, you're switching your weapons, you're doing everything. So the Gravity Leap 11.8 second cooldown really isn't too noticeable. And then the 6.7 cooldown is really good because of the fact that you want to be able to spam Earthquake as much as possible. You're going to have 3 Earthquakes, and then it goes on a cooldown for 6 seconds, pretty much 7 seconds, and you're pretty much doing everything else. You're spamming Gravity Leap, you're using your melee, you're using your gun to switch and whatnot, and by the time you go through that whole rotation, Earthquake is back up, and then Golem would be back up as well. Now for the class nodes, I went Anomaly Reservoir. I skipped the Rejuvenation, but I was actually contemplating on whether I wanted to go back with Rejuvenation and taking off Pure Anomaly. But Pure Anomaly is nice to have because of the fact that it is a 15% resistance piercing. Having the resistance piercing is going to be pretty essential in terms of being able to just do more damage to your enemies when they do put up a resistance aura. The resistance aura from the enemies makes it to where they can't be affected by status effects anymore, or I guess like movement status effects, so like slow and freeze can't affect them, but you're still going to be able to, it's kind of like a quote-unquote shield for them, so you'll basically do more damage past it. It kind of works the same way as armor piercing. And then you want to go with Unending Watch because you want to have that extra skill cooldown for your protections. protection skills, you want to go with the Paladin. Using protection skill increases anomaly power by 45% for 10 seconds, which is good because that's pretty much the whole duration of Golem. And then you have to wait for Golem to end, and then by the time it ends, you have your cooldown, and you're going to be able to use Paladin again. And you're going to skip these two. Strong Arm of the Law was pretty nice to use, to be honest, weaving in the Untamed power, but it's really not needed. Red Rivers is also nice to have, but you also don't really need that extra 30% bleed duration, especially with the amount of status power you're going to have. You won't need the extra duration, just because the more status power you have, the more the I guess the damage ticks, and the longer the status effect stays on for. But you do want to make sure you go with blood donation, so that way you're healed for 25% of your bleed damage. You do want to make sure you go with protected by the anomaly, because the more anomaly power you have, the more armor you have, and then Earth's Heritage, obviously, for 50% more damage. So now that you got everything set in place, I'm gonna pretty much explain like how I went through everything, or I guess the builds, the rotations. And for the stats, as you can see, my firepower is only, I guess it doesn't really matter what my firepower is. I'm mainly using my pistols anyways, but it's 64.9k. Doesn't matter, we're not looking at that. Anomaly power is 148k, and the only reason why is because I mean, you have all the class nodes, but I guess that's just the cap in general without extra anomaly power increases. Like on the Trickster, you can get up to 160k or something like that without much effort. If you really wanted to boost it, you can get to like 250k anomaly power. But you can see my global cooldown is 30%. Only reason why is because I don't have global cooldown on the headgear, which is fine. It's still 30%, which is still really good, really high. And then pretty much 180% status power, which is going to be super, super useful. As you can see, it says the increase of the damage of burning, toxic, and bleeding, and the increase of the duration of freeze, ash, vulnerable, and weakness is affected with status power. Now, the other good thing about status power is status power affects your skill's life leech. So skill life leech is, as you can see, it says the percentage of health regained by dealing anomaly damage includes status damage. So the more status power you have, which means the more damage you do with your status abilities. So fire and bleed. You have two different things that's going to be able to heal you over time, doing a lot of healing, which also affects your skill life leech. Hence why I was contemplating on going with rejuvenation to give myself even more healing. But personally, I don't think I really need it. But if you think you need more survivability, if you need more healing, then you can go ahead and drop pure anomaly and go with rejuvenation, just so that way you get more healing from all of that. But yeah, now we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and show you the rotation that I normally go with. So unfortunately, there's no like training dummy or anything. But yeah, I'm just gonna explain the way the rotation would normally work. So as soon as you go into an encounter, you're gonna use your pistols on the enemies. So you can just start spraying, hip fire, whatever, and then reload as soon as possible. And then you're gonna go in, golem, and then leap slam. Obviously you can't slam here, but you're gonna leap slam the enemies, and then you're gonna hit earthquake twice. If you get stuck on the ground like that, so if you get stuck on the ground like this, you can just roll out and then just slam again, and then or just spam all three of them, and then leap slam one more time. So you're gonna hold leap slam. You're gonna only do one leap slam, all three ground slams, and then one more leap slam. And then you're just gonna go back into the rotation. You're just gonna add a melee hit in between, and make sure you do have all your weapons, both shotguns, depleted with ammo. So I'm just gonna go ahead and deplete the ammo so you can see how the I guess effects look. So that's what it looks like. You have like a giant AoE around you when you use them. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much it with the rotation. There's not much really to it. There is a lot of moving around too though, so you're not really just gonna stand in one spot. But yeah, hopefully this video helped you guys out. If it did, go ahead and leave a like, comment, subscribe. If you have any questions or concerns, let me know down in the comment section as well, and I'll try my best to help you guys out as much as possible. I am going to be posting other build videos as well, so like a tech support build, and a Pyromancer crowd control build, not a Pyromancer, Trickster crowd control build, and a Pyromancer debuff build. I will be posting those down a little later down the road. I do have some of the builds put together already, like the Pyromancer, but not the Trickster's CC build and the tech support build yet. But yeah, hopefully this helped you guys out. If it did, go and leave a like, comment, subscribe. If you have any questions or concerns, let me know down in the comment section. This is All Day Anything 1. Have a good day, good night, and peace.